Welcome to our next video in our Build a Dinosaur series. We are going to work on the body. Now, as we worked on the head, we started with a chain 2 and then worked our first 4 stitches in that first chain. For the body, because we're going to do 6 stitches in a circle, we actually need a bigger loop. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chain 4. And then I am going to connect my chain together and create a loop. Now, to do that, I can go into any of these loops. I can go into the top loop, I can go into this third loop, I can go into the bottom loop. It doesn't really matter. Just choose a loop to go into because this is all going to get buried underneath your stitches as you go around. So I'm just going to slip stitch into that, which means no wrapping at all. I'm just going to go through it and slip stitch it. And again, I have this irritating tail, so I'm just going to kind of coil him so he's out of my way. Now in here, I'm going to make 6 single crochets into this big hole that I've just created. And this is going to be the base for our body. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now I'm going to go ahead and mark my last stitch again so I can keep track of where I am. Now this is a larger hole, but it's not going to matter because it's going to be what we connect the head to right here. So it is fine that that's a little bit bigger and you would probably see some stuffing through it, but we don't care because we are going to cover it up with a head. All right, so now I need to make sure I go in my first stitch. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my first stitch is this one. I am going to do 2 single crochets in each of these stitches so that my body starts to get wide pretty quickly. I don't want a really skinny dinosaur body. I want a nice burly dinosaur here. So I will do 2 in each all the way around. And at the end of this row, I will have 12. Now, I feel it's very important to count as you're going through and make sure that you have the right number of stitches in each row, simply because if you get off a little bit, sometimes it's difficult to kind of figure out where the next stitch goes and all of that. So I like to go ahead and count when I'm done with each row and make sure I have the correct number of stitches. I'm going to take my marker out. Just like when we did the head, we are not going to turn our project, meaning I'm not going to flip it back and forth. I'm just going in the same direction all the way around. All right, so now I have 12, correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Perfect. I'm going to mark my last stitch and move on to my next row. Now I am going to go ahead and work Mr. Dinosaur's body down a little ways, and then I will catch you on our row that we start to increase. And so I will come back right around row 11. I will see you in just a minute. I am now on row 11, and I've marked my stitch, and you see I'm getting a nice kind of cone shape here to my body. So I am now going to start my increase row, and what this is going to do is we're going to get a nice sway to the back here. So you see how it kind of scoops out where the tail is? We're going to add that sway to the back. Otherwise you just end up with kind of a big tube and it's not as attractive. So I am going to single crochet in my first 10, and that'll get me around the stomach. Six, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now in the next 3 stitches, I'm going to increase by 1. So I'm going to put 2 in here, 2 in here, and 2 in here. And then I'll do 2 that I don't increase. I'm just going to do single crochets. And then my last 3, I'm going to put 2 in as well. And that'll help it'll build out the body a little bit. so that he's got a little bit of a caboose to him. All right, so I've done my first, the 3-stitch increase here. Now I'm going to do 2 just single crochets and single stitches, and then I'm going to do 3 more of those increase. And I'm going to move my marker out of my way. Maybe. There we go. Perfect. Now my next row gets a little complicated. So I am going to again increase so that I add some more, but I want to do it so that it remains round. I don't want to get a weird point here and there, and so there's going to be a lot of back and forth between increasing and not increasing. All right, welcome to row 12. Now row 12 gets pretty fun here. So we've done our first set of increases for the back. Now on row 12 we're going to single crochet just 1 in each for 12 stitches, and then we're going to do this nice little, you know, cha-cha. So we're going to go 1 1 2 2 1 1 2 2 1 1 2 2 1 1 until we get to the end. And what that's going to do is, again, it's going to increase it, but it's going to do it in a nice round fashion so it doesn't get too large too fast, but it also it's going to make sure it's symmetrical and even. So we did our 1 1. Now we're going to do our 2 2. Then that's 2 stitches in 2 stitches, basically 2 stitches in each of those 2 stitches. So we've got our 2 2. Now I'll do 1 in this one, 1 in this one. Now 2 and 2. And then 1 1 2 2 1 1. All right, we've finished that row. Now the next 3 rows, I'm just doing 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So I am new at this video editing thing, but I think what I'm going to try and do is go ahead and do them, film it the whole time, and see if I can do some fast forwarding action. So we'll see how well that works. I could just end up cutting the video and moving on, but we'll see. So I'm just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 3 rows. Now, if you get to a spot in your yarn where the manufacturer has knotted it like this, I give it a good tug and make sure it's solid and it's not going to go anywhere, and then I will go ahead and work through it on a project like a dinosaur. If I'm making something that's more delicate, like a sweater, or something that I'm really concerned that this knot is going to get irritating, I will cut the yarn and then seam it normally, which basically I overlap the 2 pieces and work a couple stitches with the 2 pieces doubled. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just continue working with this, and I'm going to make sure that that knot gets buried on the inside, and then no one will even know it's there. right, I have finished my 3 rows, so I am now on row 16. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to start my decreases. And by doing that, it's going to pull this whole thing in, and it's going to, just like it did with the head, it'll give it a nice quick decrease. So I'm going to take 2 stitches and turn them into 1. So I'm going to go into the first one, pull up a loop, go into the second one, pull up a loop, and then I'm going to wrap and pull through all 3. And you see now I've turned 4 stitches into 2. I'm going to do that all the way around. Now at the end of this row, I will have halved the number of stitches I have. So we're taking this down pretty quickly. And at this point, as soon as I get all the way around, I am going to stuff this a little bit so that I make sure that I have room to put my hand in here and smush things around. All right, perfect. So now I'm going to go ahead and stuff this guy. You can see how it's pulling it in already. It kind of looks like a giant dinosaur head at this point, but it is not. It is the body. Now I make sure my tail that I started with is inside here. This is where we are attaching our head in a minute, so I'm okay with it. Nice arm shot there, sorry. I'm okay with it just being stuffed in there. I don't want to pull my black yarn in. I'm going to move that over here. And just like we did with the head, I want this to be a good solid body. So I want to make sure that when I put the stuffing in here, I have plenty in there so he's not going to be schlumpy later on. All right, now I've gone ahead and stuffed this pretty good. I'm going to end up putting more stuffing back in this part, as well as some more in the bottom here, but I want to get some more of my decreases done. Now the rest of this, it does not matter where this marker is, so I'm going to take it out, and I am just going to continue to decrease all the way around until I have probably about 6 stitches left. And then I will go ahead and drawstring it closed just like we did on his head. Got caught up in my yarn there. You can see my hole is getting pretty small, so I'm going to go ahead and pause right here for a minute and add some more stuffing to this back side. Now I can either leave my hook in here, I can pull it out, put my finger in it, I could put a stitch marker there just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. I just want to make sure I don't drop that stitch, because the nice and scary thing about crochet is you can just rip it all apart really quick. So I'm now just going to shape this as I'm stuffing it and just make sure I've got a good shape going on here. All right, he's starting to look like a cute little dinosaur body. At this point, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to, 7. I have 7. So I'm going to go ahead and decrease a couple more times. I'm going to pull this tight and make sure I haven't added slack. And I'm going to try not to pull my batting into my stitches, but it happens at times. Okay, now just like I did on the head, I'm going to leave myself a nice long tail here. So at least a foot long, because I'm going to use this. I'm sorry, I just hit my stand. I'm going to use this to not only sew the bottom together, but potentially add other body parts. So I'm going to make sure that I have a nice long tail in case I need to use it for something else. I'm going to put my yarn needle in it. And now I'm going to go ahead and do the weaving the same way I did it for his head. I'm going to go under, over, under, basically. I'll try not to do it all at once. Make it easier. There, so I've got under there. Now I'm going to go over, there, under there. I'm going to do this all the way around and create like a drawstring and pull this closed. Like that. Now, especially with the bottom, you notice our decreases because we decrease so quickly, we have a lot of space here. So I am now going to take this thread and I'm going to kind of zigzag through this and kind of help pull that in a little bit and also fill in the space so I don't have such big spaces there because I don't want my stuffing escaping. That's not cool. Some poor little dinosaur. I'm going to go under that one and pull that up. And it'll also help make our base a little flatter. And this is the bottom of our dinosaur. All right, so now we've created a nice bottom and he's going to sit pretty good and flat for us. So I'm going to go ahead now and knot this. I'm just going to grab one of these pieces of yarn and knot to it. Pull my tail through here so it's not in my way. All right, and at that point I will just leave this here and I will come back and deal with it later. But now we have our little dinosaur body. And his head will get sewn on about like that. I like to kind of line up the back of his head with his back. And I'm going to make sure when I do attach these two things that I'm centered so that his head doesn't look like he's looking left or right. So I want to make sure he's centered. Now you could make him look left or right if you wanted, but I'm going to try and keep him centered. All right, so I am now going to stop this video and meet you over at the next video where I'll talk about sewing these together. All right, thanks everyone.